What is up, YouTube? G3 Iron here, and today we're going to be talking about making a wise decision, choosing between a hardcore league or a softcore league character in Path of Exile. And typically what I do is I typically try to go every other league. So every other league I try to play softcore, and then every other league I try to play hardcore. I try to change it up a little bit. The last couple of leagues have been thrown off a little bit because back during the Winter League, which would have been regularly a hardcore league, I played that softcore a little bit. Well, I did push a hardcore character to level 69, but then I swapped over because Mrs. Draconis and I had a baby, so that was our third. So recognizing that hardcore is not the greatest thing to play when you're going to be getting up, changing diapers, helping out around the house, etc. You don't want to go AFK in a hardcore league because you will die. Something will come up and kill you, and you'll come back and be like, "What killed me? Oh no!" So anyway, so I typically try to go every other. And while the baby has spent the first 6 or 7 months outside of the womb, I've been trying to just play softcore so that way I don't get frustrated and die because I left something up and was just being stupid. So that's typically what I try to do. I enjoy both softcore and hardcore. I'm not going to come at this video from a, hey, you need to be playing softcore, or hey, you need to be playing hardcore only. But I typically enjoy both types of leagues and appreciate them both as two different types of gameplay in Path of Exile. So I wanted to give you guys some tips, some ideas, some pros and cons of playing in softcore versus playing in hardcore leagues. So let's take a look. So in a hardcore league, in a softcore league, there are lots of benefits of playing. The first one is that the trade market moves much faster, and buying and selling happens a lot quicker, vast amounts faster. So because of this, because things move so quick, you can simply find something very, very fast and sell it. I mean, we're talking within minutes of something getting posted live. If you're really looking to move currency, as soon as you find an item, you can list that item and it's going to move in a softcore league. In a hardcore league, simply because there's less players playing, the trade market often moves a little bit slower. And when people are making purchases, they really want to make sure that the thing that they're buying is worth the value that they're spending on it, because their character could die. So a benefit of playing in a softcore league is people just have a bunch of currency floating around. They're not necessarily looking to get the most value out of all of their currency. People are willing to overspend if they need to in a softcore league, so the trade market moves much faster. Secondly, in a softcore league, a great number of items are available. So because in a softcore league you die, but you don't lose your character, you don't lose your stash, you don't lose your inventory. If you die while you're wearing a tabula rasa, you don't need to go and farm another tabula rasa. You just still have your tabula rasa, you hit resurrect at the checkpoint, and you keep playing. So a greater number of items are available in a softcore league, which is great because that can mean that prices actually change based on that. Thirdly, if you die, you only lose experience, not your inventory plus your character. So in a softcore league, it's very, very forgiving for new players who want to start out or who are just learning Path of Exile, or if you're trying to get a buddy or a friend or a family member into PoE. When you die, and this only really applies once you hit certain thresholds in the game, you'll start to lose experience, but that's pretty late on into the game from a new player's perspective. I understand a lot of us play until maps, and a lot of us, grind to level 90, 95, etc. But for most players, for a new player, to get through the first 5 acts, 6 acts, 7 acts, that's a lot of content for them to go through and still enjoy the game. Typically, that means they're going to keep playing and become a long-term player, but early on, there's no drawback to playing in a softcore league. So for new players that are worried about, oh no, if I make a mistake, is that a big deal? In a softcore league, it's a lot more forgiving. You're only losing experience, you're not losing your inventory plus your character. This means that you also get to progress further and you can experience more content. So let's say you're playing in softcore and you die to Malachi, or you die to High Templar of Varius, or let's say you die to Innocence in the Innocence fight. A lot of people in G3 this past league died to Innocence. What about the Brine King? Sometimes people make dumb mistakes. I was just watching the Solo Self-Found hardcore race event for Flashback over the weekend, and a couple of people actually died to Brine King. They just got unlucky and got one shot by Nessa when she comes up and shoots her lightning bolts, and it blew some people up. So anyway, so you can progress further and experience more content in a softcore league, because just because you die, it doesn't mean you need to restart and start over again. Okay, number 5, it's more friendly to party play. So in a softcore league, you can simply put up, hey, I'm running a mapping party, or hey, let's level through together. And it doesn't matter if you're different builds, it doesn't matter if you're relying on different defensive mechanics. If you die, you just lost experience. No big deal. And a lot of the times when I run map groups in softcore leagues, if somebody dies, they'll leave because they're embarrassed. They're like, oh, I don't want to play with that group. Or maybe that group's moving at too fast a clip for me, and so I'm not going to get experience. Or maybe that group doesn't have the type of loot settings that I like. Maybe I like permanent loot. Maybe I like free-for-all, etc. But it's more friendly to party play because in hardcore, as soon as you die, you go back to 0, or you got to swap characters. So one player may be running maps and can say, hey, I can run a map with no regen. That's totally fine for me. But then if somebody else goes into the map and they're running a Righteous Fire build and they didn't see the map mods, they go into that hardcore map, dead instantly as soon as they turn on their Righteous Fire. So there's a lot of factors that go into making party play friendly in a hardcore versus softcore league. So in a softcore league, it's just more friendly because if you die, you only lose experience. All right, so this makes it overall, softcore, a more forgiving experience for new players. It's just more forgiving. If you make a mistake, it's okay. It's just XP. It's just time lost. You can always get that back. So my recommendation for you is if you're inviting a new player to play PoE, take them to a softcore league. If you're not taking them to standard, that is, if you're bringing them in for a league because you want them to experience all the hype and all the players and all of these other wonderful benefits that we've talked about, take them into the softcore league. Don't take them into hardcore because it's more forgiving for new players. All right, so if you're going to play hardcore, here are some of the benefits. So you may be wondering, well, Iron, you just listed all of these wonderful benefits for softcore. Why on earth would I want to play hardcore? Well, here's the number one reason, and this is the number one reason. I've pulled a couple of different players that I play hardcore with, and this was the number one thing out of their mouth. It's a greater sense of accomplishment. Some of them used some fouler language than that to describe what the sense is. But it's a greater sense of accomplishment. The further you get in a hardcore league, the better you feel about yourself, the better you feel about your build, the better you feel about your abilities as a player, the greater confidence you grow in as a player, and the greater confidence you grow in your knowledge of the game. You just have a greater sense of accomplishment. And every time you lose a character in hardcore, that kind of becomes a benchmark for what you want to push past next. So one of my very first hardcore characters died, I want to say, in Act 2. It was in the fields oh no, it's Act 1. It's right before Piety closes the way. It's right before she shuts off the way, and there's some of those fiery dogs that are right there, those Hellions, those fiery dogs that are there. And I believe it's like a mini boss or something that's right there. Anyway, he totally burned me up, totally killed me right away, right out the gate. That was one of my very first hardcore characters. So my next goal for my next hardcore character was, okay, get past halfway through Act 1. Let's try to make it to Act 2. So we did that. Then I lost another character to, I want to say it's the Act 2 Vol Overlord boss who came down and slammed me on one of my hardcore characters. And see these little stories that I've got? I've got memories of this from years ago when I first played a hardcore league, because these are such pivotal moments where you lose a character and you go, all right, I'm never going to die to that again. I'm going to learn what killed me. I'm going to pay attention, and I'm going to build my next character specifically to get past that. So it gives you this awesome sense of accomplishment when you get there. So my latest hardcore character made it to level 69. That was my goal, to make it to that league, was to get to level 69. I think I've had some hardcore characters that are beyond 69, but it had been a while since I'd played hardcore. So anyway, so I wanted to get to level 69, get to maps, and essentially get past Kitava, because I hadn't played a hardcore character that far or progressed that far since Fall of Oriath had come out last August in 2017. So it gives a great sense of accomplishment when you're able to do that, and that's exactly what I got back in December with that hardcore character, was a greater sense of accomplishment. I don't have stories from my softcore league, like other than killing Shaper. It really is just time on task, and you're going to be able to complete the game. But hardcore, it's not just time on task, it's also your skill involved. So it gives a really awesome, great sense of accomplishment. Also, it gives you a heightened sense of difficulty. So let's say you just went out and you bought a bunch of upgrades. So this often happens to me, where I will go out and switch gear in hardcore, and I'm smiling because it happens so much. It's like an inside joke. There are several other guys that I play hardcore with, and they all know, oh, watch out, Iron upgraded some items. He's going to die any moment now, because you get used to playing a particular way with the items that you have. You almost grow comfortable with it. And so even if you upgrade your items in certain ways, maybe the level of armor that you had swapped, or maybe the level of evasion that you had, or block chance swapped. So maybe there are some defensive mechanics that you were using and relying on that now you're no longer relying on. So even though you're more tanky overall or more defensive defensively efficient overall. It could be that one of these things that you were relying on earlier before you swapped all the gear really got you through gameplay and got you through sloppy mistakes in your own gameplay. And now that you've swapped items, even though you've got better items overall, you're not used to playing with those better items. And so sometimes while you're getting familiar with those new items, down goes a character, rip goes a character. So it gives a heightened sense of difficulty. Hardcore does. And a lot of the times, like, you'll see people racing in Softcore, and they could care less. Like, they'll just shotgun a boss. Shotgunning a boss is just when you go up, fire as much damage as you can at the boss, and then you die, and you just resurrect a checkpoint, run back in, try and shotgun down the boss again, rinse and repeat until the boss goes down. Well, in a hardcore league, you can't do that. So learning things like, hey, I need to refresh my flasks, and I need to open up a portal and go back to town, or hey, do I actually have the DPS to be able to take out this boss yet? Or do I need to continue farming? Or do I need to buy an upgrade? If I'm in a trade league or if I'm solo self-found, then hey, do I need to use some of my currency to craft? All of this provides a heightened sense of difficulty as you're playing through a hardcore league. Thirdly, you feel like you're playing a stash rather than playing a build. So the distinction between these two is simply that when you're playing a build in Softcore, you follow a very regimented, predictable pattern of what it is that you're going to purchase, and you have a very clear sense of what you would like in the end game. However, in Hardcore, oftentimes you're going to lose a character or 2 or 3 or 10. So, being able to stash away currency and stash away items that were valuable as you were leveling and as you were progressing on various characters becomes incredibly valuable. So rather than just having a stash tab full of stuff that you're just hoping sells, and the reality is it just rolls over to standard because a lot of the times we don't go back in and price check stuff and adjust it based on demand, so a lot of us just roll over a bunch of crap into standard every single league. Well, when you play hardcore, all of that stuff becomes relevant again. Like, your level 30 through 40 flasks really matter as you're pushing through Act 3 and Act 4 because you want to have those available. You need those flasks, and you're not necessarily going to find them every single time you run through on a build. So you feel like you're playing a stash more than you're just playing a build, and you feel like you're playing a swath of characters rather than just playing one particular build. Now, you can play one particular build and just play it over and over and over, and then hence your items, you just gather up a bunch of items that are really effective for you for leveling. But again, you still feel like you're playing a stash rather than just playing, oh, I'm going to swap onto this build today, oh, I'm going to swap onto that. You're very reliant on your stash and what you've got saved up over time. Fourthly, playing hardcore forces you to learn mechanics in the most punishing way possible. So when you die to something in hardcore, first off, it typically looks like this. No! At least that's what it looks like for me. And then you're just sitting there for a second, and you're like, okay, what killed me? I need to know what killed me. Like the first time I died to the Vol Oversoul at the end of Act 2, I went out and I looked him up. I was like, okay, I need to look up what his moves are. Died once to Malachi. Okay, I need to go look up what his moves are. Died a whole bunch. Used to die a whole bunch to Dominus when there were 3 different difficulties and you played over the loop of the 4 acts over and over again in order to level before you could get to maps. Looked up Dominus so many times, and it took me like 2 or 3 characters to learn what the animation looked like for the touch of God, and then he smashes you and you die. But it took me a while to learn what that looked like. Like, it took me several characters to go, okay, do I have the DPS and the survivability to withstand Dominus, or do I have the awareness to actually get out of the way? Like, learning mechanics, playing hardcore is not something you want to do when it's after a long day of work and you're really tired and you're like, should I watch some YouTube? Or should I play some hardcore PoE? No. If that thought enters your mind, go watch YouTube. Choose YouTube. Like, if you're wondering, oh, I could probably squeeze in a map or 2 before I go to bed. No. Go to bed. Or watch somebody else. Like, watch somebody else on the stream. Don't boot up your character and then go play a map or 2. Because you will die. You weren't paying attention to something. You didn't see something. Oh, there was a volatile dead on that guy that I didn't realize that he was going to... Oh... And those, there was a bunch of porcupines around there, and I didn't even see them. Oh, those guys had corrupted blood. Like, there's so many mechanics that you're gonna go, oh, I didn't see that. So, playing hardcore makes you learn the mechanics of the game in the most punishing way possible because you will die. Don't kid yourself thinking, yeah, well, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna be safe. And no. You will die. And you will learn mechanics, and then if you enjoy that in a hardcore league, then you'll rinse and repeat and play through your stash and continue to enjoy the experience and learn more about the game in a greater sense. Okay, 5th. there's fewer bots, which means less market manipulation overall. So if it really bugs you when you see people trying to scam people, if it really bugs you when like 1 or 2 clans have got the corner on a market and they're trying to trade items with people to scam people, if price fixers on maps or price fixers on currency flips really bug you, if it bugs you when you get into Act 3 and you just see a gazillion bots like running in the same patterns, like all of these things, there are fewer bots in hardcore because guess what? Bots die in hardcore, and when they die, the bot user has got to figure out how to boot up their bot again. So if you want to play in a, and I'm going to use this term, I don't mean this in an elitist sense, but in a purer league, in a league that is more humans, at least fewer bots, then hardcore is definitely where it's at. There's less market manipulation due to bots. Okay, and then lastly, again, it just comes back to point 1. You get to be the biggest bragger. There is a greater sense of accomplishment when you're playing on a hardcore league. Like getting to level, whatever level. It could be level 10. It could be level 70. It could be level 95. Whatever level it is that you get to, sharing with your buddies and sharing with your guildmates and sharing with the G3 fam, hey, I made it to this level. It's a much bigger accomplishment because in softcore, it's just an issue of time. Right? It's just an issue of saying, hey, do you have enough time? Which not all of us have the same amount of time to play the game, and so some of us progress further than others. But in a hardcore league, it's a mixture of time and skill. So you could actually have the same amount of time as somebody else to put in, but you've got better skill, and so you progress further. Or you could have less time than somebody else does, but because you're a more skilled player in hardcore, you're able to make it further. So you get to be the biggest bragger. It is just a great sense of accomplishment when you're able to hit a goal in a hardcore league. Okay, so what's your decision when you're thinking about should you choose softcore or hardcore? Before you decide, think carefully through a couple of questions. I've got 3 here. So first off, am I going to enjoy dying? Okay. That may sound really dumb, but are you going to enjoy it? Like, are you going to learn from it? Whatever it is that you could potentially enjoy about dying. It could be that it's a silly decision, so it makes you laugh. It could be because it was the end of a day and you were like, oh no, Iron said in that video I shouldn't have played, but I was like, nah, forget it. What does Iron know? I'm going to go play. If you enjoy that, like, if you enjoy that sense of I died, now I want to get back up again and I want to go push past that, then hardcore is the way to go. If, however, you go, nope, I want to still play this character, I want to learn what this build can do, I want to feel what this build can do, I want to progress to certain points, then probably softcore is going to be the best way for you to go. Second question, am I going to have time to play a stash rather than a character? So if you feel like, hey, when I die and I lose all this stuff, that's just going to suck all the fun out of the game and I'm not going to want to grind up and level again. Like if you hate the leveling process, there's a number of people in the G3 fam that hate the leveling process. Probably hardcore is not for you. I enjoy the leveling process, especially now that Fall of Oriath has come out. We don't have to play through the same 4 acts over and over and over again. I really enjoy the leveling process. It's fun to see different layouts and experience the different characters, and dare I say it, experience the lore of the game. I know, ooh, spooky. Most people don't even know PoE has lore, but I enjoy that. I enjoy playing a stash sometimes, and sometimes I enjoy playing a character. So that's why I come down on the every other league. But that's a question to ask yourself: are you going to want to play a stash, and if you lose somebody that you're like, no, I really wanted to see this build completed, go play softcore. If, however, you're going, hey, how far can I push this build, go play hardcore. All right, and lastly, what are my friends playing? So remember how we talked about how party play is way more forgiving in softcore? Yeah, so if you've got a bunch of friends, if you've got a bunch of G3 guildmates, if you've got a bunch of other friends that you're trying to introduce the game to, softcore is the way to go. If, however, you've got a couple of friends, like I myself, I'm going to be playing hardcore next league. I don't even know what the mechanics are yet. They haven't been announced, but nonetheless, I'm saying, hey, I'm playing hardcore, and I'm going to lose a bunch of characters, and it's going to be fun. I'm going to make videos about it. It's going to be hilarious, and hopefully you all can laugh at the stupid decisions that I make as I die. But asking what are my friends playing is a legitimate, totally legitimate question to play, because PoE is much more enjoyable when you've got friends that you can go, hey, I need a map, or hey, I need some completions, or hey, does anybody have some of extra of this, or hey, does anybody have some leveling gear that they've got sitting around? So it's great to play with friends. It's a wonderful game to play with friends. And so asking yourself and asking your friends, hey, what is it that you guys are playing, is a good thing to do. So make a decision, because the announcement is only a few days away from what the next league is going to be. We are less than a month away from the new league, so choose wisely whether or not you're going to play PoE 3.4 softcore or hardcore. I've already made my decision. I'm playing hardcore, at least until I rage quit. and say, no, this is the 5th guy I've lost in a week. I can't do this anymore. Anyway, so make a wise decision, and as always, enjoy, stick around, like and subscribe down below. Leave us a comment if you've got other thoughts on the benefits or the potential problems with playing softcore or hardcore.